Mike Brown just burned a bridge he never needed to cross. Within 48 hours of being named the New York Knicks' new head coach, he managed to create the most unnecessary feud in recent NBA history. During what should have been a celebration of his coaching appointment, Brown decided to take an unprovoked shot at Jayson Tatum, a Finals MVP, a championship winner, someone who's proven himself at the highest level. His reasoning? Tatum apparently doesn't fit his system. But here's where it gets interesting. Tatum didn't play the diplomatic game. Instead of brushing off the comments or taking the high road, he fired back with the kind of precision that only comes from someone who's tired of proving himself to people who should already know better. The result? A viral moment that split the basketball world and raised fundamental questions about coaching philosophy, superstar management, and whether championship credentials still matter in today's hot-take culture. Before we dive deeper, here's what I want to know. When a coach publicly questions a proven champion's ability to win at the highest level, who's really exposing themselves? Drop your thoughts, because this goes way beyond basketball. It's about respect, credibility, and knowing when to keep your mouth shut. This isn't just another coaching controversy that'll blow over in a week. Brown's comments and Tatum's response have created a narrative that could define both their legacies. One coach trying to establish his philosophy by tearing down established success, and one superstar refusing to let his accomplishments be minimized. What started as a routine interview has become a masterclass in how quickly words can backfire, and how champions respond when their greatness gets questioned by someone who's never coached them to begin with. The unnecessary attack that started everything. Mike Brown was riding high. Fresh off signing a lucrative deal to coach the New York Knicks, he appeared on ESPN's The Jump to discuss his vision for the franchise. The questions were straightforward: team philosophy, defensive schemes, how he planned to maximize the Knicks' existing talent. Everything was going smoothly until host Malika Andrews asked about coaching elite scorers and specifically mentioned Jayson Tatum as an example of the modern NBA superstar. It was an innocent question designed to get Brown talking about his coaching philosophy with star players. Instead, Brown decided to drop a verbal bomb that nobody saw coming. "Look, Malika, Tatum is a talented scorer," Brown began, and everyone expected the standard diplomatic praise. "But he's not built for true championship moments. He's too comfortable being the focal point, too individualistic for what championship basketball actually requires." The studio went quiet. Andrews tried to give Brown a chance to clarify, asking if he meant Tatum needed better supporting pieces, but Brown doubled down with devastating specificity. "In my system, he wouldn't even get a spot on my Rocket-style lineup. I need players who understand that basketball is about sacrifice, about doing whatever it takes to win. Tatum plays like someone who's never had to sacrifice his numbers for championships." Stop right there. Brown just said a Finals MVP wouldn't make his rotation. Someone who helped lead Boston to a championship wouldn't fit his system. Am I the only one who thinks this sounds more like jealousy than legitimate coaching analysis? The attack became even more personal as Brown continued. "I watched him in those Finals runs, and you could see it. When the pressure mounted, when games got ugly, he defaulted to hero ball instead of trusting his teammates. That's not championship DNA." Andrews attempted damage control, reminding Brown that Tatum had actually won a championship just months earlier. Brown's response was dismissive. "One title doesn't prove championship character. Look at how many shots he took, how he played in crucial moments. Real champions make others better when it matters most." The interview shifted topics quickly after that, but the damage was done. Within hours, clips of Brown's comments were circulating on every sports platform. NBA Twitter erupted with reactions ranging from shock to outrage to confusion about why a newly hired coach would unnecessarily antagonize a player he'd never even worked with. What Brown didn't know was that Tatum was scheduled for his own TV appearance just hours later, and someone was definitely going to ask him about these comments. Tatum's calculated counterattack. Jayson Tatum learned about Mike Brown's comments the way most NBA players find out about drama these days. His phone started buzzing non-stop with texts from teammates, agents, and friends, sending him clips with messages like, "You seeing this?" By the time Tatum arrived at TD Garden for his scheduled interview with NBC Sports Boston, he'd watched Brown's comments multiple times. Those close to him say he wasn't angry. He was something worse, disappointed that a coach would make such uninformed statements about his game. When reporter Abby Chin asked him directly about Brown's assessment, Tatum's response was measured but devastating. "I respect Coach Brown's right to have an opinion, but I'm confused about what championship moments he's referring to since we won a championship last year." The crowd of gathered media members sensed something brewing. Tatum's tone was calm, but there was an edge that suggested he wasn't finished. "If playing like a team means benching me, then fine. I'd rather win titles than chase ego," Tatum continued, his voice gaining strength. "But it's interesting hearing about championship DNA from someone who's never coached a team to a title." This is where Tatum shifted from defense to offense, and it was surgical. He basically said, "Show me your rings before you question mine." Do you think Tatum was justified in bringing up Brown's coaching record, or should he have taken the high road? But Tatum wasn't done dismantling Brown's argument. He pulled up his phone and started reading statistics. "In our championship run, I averaged 8.5 assists in elimination games. I shot 47% from the field when we needed wins most. If that's hero ball, then I guess I don't understand basketball." The most devastating blow came when Tatum addressed Brown's Rockets-style comment. "Coach Brown mentioned his system wouldn't have room for me. That's fine. But I'm curious what his system has actually produced, because mine produced a championship banner." The interview continued for another 10 minutes, but social media had already latched onto Tatum's key quotes. The phrase, "show me your rings," started trending immediately, with fans creating memes comparing Tatum's championship credentials to Brown's coaching record. What made Tatum's response so effective wasn't just the content, it was the delivery. He never raised his voice, never resorted to personal attacks, but systematically dismantled every aspect of Brown's criticism using facts and accomplishments. By the end of the interview, the narrative had completely flipped. Instead of discussing whether Tatum was championship caliber, people were questioning why Brown had picked this fight in the first place. The internet explosion and taking sides. Within 30 minutes of Tatum's response hitting the airwaves, Brown vs. Tatum was trending worldwide. The NBA community found itself split into camps, but not in the way anyone expected. The overwhelming majority sided with Tatum, and their reasoning was simple. He had the receipts. Current and former NBA players flooded social media with support for the Celtics star. Damian Lillard tweeted, "Ring don't lie." Kevin Durant posted, "Some coaches talk too much before they coach." Even LeBron James, who rarely weighs in on these controversies, shared Tatum's interview with the caption, "Champion responds like a champion." But the support wasn't just from superstars. Role players and veterans who'd actually won championships came to Tatum's defense. Draymond Green, never one to stay quiet, dedicated an entire podcast episode to the controversy. "Mike Brown just showed he doesn't understand what championship basketball looks like. Tatum carried Boston when it mattered most." What strikes me most about the reaction is how united the player community was in supporting Tatum. When was the last time we saw players across different teams and generations agree this strongly on anything? It feels like Brown accidentally united everyone against him. The analytics community also rallied behind Tatum. Basketball Reference and ESPN Stats and Info released detailed breakdowns of his championship performance, showing clutch statistics that directly contradicted Brown's assessment. The numbers painted a picture of a player who elevated his game in crucial moments, not someone who cracked under pressure. Meanwhile, Brown's supporters were few and far between. Some coaching analysts tried to defend his right to evaluate talent, but even they struggled with the timing and specificity of his attack. Most stopped short of actually agreeing with his assessment of Tatum's game. The Knicks organization found themselves in an awkward position. They couldn't publicly disagree with their newly hired coach, but they also couldn't afford to alienate the broader NBA community before Brown had even coached a game. Their official statement was diplomatically neutral. Coach Brown's comments reflect his coaching philosophy and approach to team building. The media reaction was equally telling. ESPN's Stephen A. Smith called Brown's comments inexcusable and unprofessional. Skip Bayless, who rarely agrees with Stephen A. I supported Tatum. A championship ring speaks louder than coaching theories. Perhaps most damaging for Brown was the reaction from former champions. Multiple NBA players who'd won titles came forward to praise Tatum's championship performance, effectively contradicting Brown's entire premise. By day's end, Brown had managed to create a controversy where he was almost universally seen as wrong, while elevating Tatum's reputation as someone who responds to criticism with class and facts. The deeper implications and coaching credibility. Beyond the viral moments and social media battles, this controversy exposed something deeper about coaching credibility in the modern NBA. Mike Brown's comments weren't just about Jayson Tatum. They were about a coach trying to establish authority by diminishing established success. The timing couldn't have been worse for Brown. As a new head coach, trying to build relationships with players around the league, alienating a respected champion sent the wrong message about his approach to leadership. NBA players talk, and Brown's willingness to publicly criticize someone he'd never coached raised red flags about how he might treat his own players. Several veteran coaches weighed in off the record, with most expressing confusion about Brown's strategy. "You don't build credibility by tearing down champions," one Western Conference coach told ESPN. "Players respect coaches who understand what winning actually looks like." This brings up a fascinating question about modern coaching. Should coaches be able to critique any player publicly, or are there lines you don't cross when discussing proven champions? Does Brown's lack of championship experience as a head coach matter in this context? The controversy also highlighted the importance of championship credentials in NBA discourse. Tatum's ability to point to his ring as the ultimate response showed how much weight actual accomplishments carry compared to theoretical coaching philosophies. From a basketball perspective, Brown's criticism missed the mark entirely. Advanced metrics from Boston's championship run showed Tatum performing exceptionally in high-leverage situations. His usage rate in clutch moments was balanced with efficient shooting and increased assist numbers, exactly the kind of championship basketball Brown claimed Tatum couldn't play. The incident also raised questions about Brown's understanding of modern NBA offense. His Rocket-style reference seemed outdated, especially when discussing a player who'd just proven his ability to adapt and elevate his game in championship moments. For the Knicks, this controversy became an early test of their new coach's judgment. While they publicly supported Brown, privately there were concerns about his approach to building relationships within the NBA community. The broader coaching fraternity watched closely, recognizing that Brown's comments could set a precedent for how coaches discuss players publicly. Most concluded that he'd crossed a line that experience and wisdom typically help coaches avoid. Long-term consequences and future implications. The fallout from Mike Brown's comments will likely follow both coaches and players for years to come. For Brown, this controversy became the defining moment of his Knicks tenure before he'd even coached a practice, creating expectations and scrutiny that will accompany every decision he makes. The incident established a dynamic where Brown will constantly be measured against his bold claims. Every rotation decision, every timeout, every strategic choice will be viewed through the lens of whether his system actually produces better results than proven champions like Tatum. For Tatum, the controversy served as an unexpected validation. His measured, fact-based response enhanced his reputation as a mature leader who can handle criticism professionally while standing up for his accomplishments. The overwhelming support from peers reinforced his status as a respected champion. Looking ahead, this sets up fascinating dynamics. Will Brown's Knicks need to outperform Tatum's Celtics for him to save face? And how will this affect recruiting when players know Brown is willing to publicly criticize champions? This could have real consequences for both franchises. The incident also established new boundaries around coaching commentary. Other coaches learned from Brown's mistake, understanding that questioning proven champions requires more nuance and evidence than theoretical philosophy. Player empowerment advocates pointed to Tatum's response as a model for how athletes should handle unfair criticism, not with emotion or personal attacks, but with accomplishments and facts. His approach may influence how future player-coach conflicts play out publicly. For the broader NBA landscape, this controversy reinforced the importance of championship credentials in league discussions. Brown's inability to counter Tatum's ring argument showed how much weight actual success carries in basketball discourse. The Knicks organization will likely implement more media training and strategic communication protocols to prevent similar incidents. The controversy cost them goodwill with players and agents before their new era even began. Perhaps most significantly, this incident may change how coaches approach public evaluations of players. The swift and decisive backlash Brown faced will make future coaches think twice before making similar statements without proper context or credentials. The basketball world learned that in an era where everything goes viral, credibility matters more than ever, and championships speak louder than theories. Mike Brown walked into a simple interview opportunity and left with a reputation-defining controversy that he created entirely by himself. His unprovoked attack on Jayson Tatum backfired so spectacularly that it became a case study in how not to establish coaching credibility. Tatum's response was masterful, measured, factual, and devastating. He didn't need to raise his voice or make personal attacks. He simply pointed to the championship banner hanging in Boston and asked Brown to show his. Game over. The broader lesson here isn't just about these two individuals. It's about understanding your position before you speak. Brown tried to build his reputation by diminishing someone who'd already climbed the mountain he's still trying to reach. That's not coaching philosophy. That's poor judgment. What made this controversy so one-sided was the evidence. Tatum had numbers, film, and most importantly, a championship to back up every word he said. Brown had theories about systems that haven't yet proven successful at the NBA level. The NBA community's reaction sent a clear message: respect is earned, not declared. You can't talk your way into credibility by talking down proven champions. The league's players, coaches, and analysts understood this immediately, which is why Brown found himself essentially alone in this fight. For Tatum, this moment probably strengthened his leadership credentials more than any individual performance could have. He showed he can handle criticism with class while still defending his accomplishments firmly. For Brown, this serves as an expensive lesson in understanding the weight of your words as an NBA head coach. Every comment will be scrutinized, every criticism will be challenged, and your credentials will always be measured against those you choose to critique. The final score: championship experience 1, coaching theories 0. Sometimes the game really is that simple.